Warriors, we have a lot to get to, so let us begin. I did my radio show today, Lynn's Warriors on WVOX 1460 AM here in New York City. And I had an incredible guest join me today. My dear associate human trafficking survivor, Christian Eduardo. I will have this interview up tomorrow, and I would urge all of you to please listen to it. Of course, I'll be tweeting it and Facebooking it and sharing it all over the place. Let me tell you a little bit about Christian. He is a leader. He is an advocate. He is a speaker. He is a consultant working with the immigrant community. He is HIV positive. He is a gay man. He is from Mexico. He's working with our LGBTQ plus communities. He's doing it all. I stand with Christian because we both support here in New York the equality model. And the equality model is not very popular here in New York. New York State and many other states also are calling for the full decriminalization of the sex trade. And what that means is one big free-for-all. You'll have a brothel next door. You'll have an open sex trade going on. Your child's school could be next to an illicit spa. Remember, here in New York, we just had a report recently that the illicit spa business outnumbers Starbucks 2-to-1. So, Christian is working very hard. The equality model. Let me try not to jump all over. I have so much to share with you. And again, this is another late night recording, but I wanted to make sure I spoke to all of my friends before we all called it a night. So Christian would be the ideal candidate to be a role model for all of this, wouldn't you think? HIV positive, gay, working with immigrants, yet our elected officials here in New York give very little time. They don't want to hear the survivors' voices. They want to hear a certain survivor's voice. No, actually, I got to take that back. They don't want to hear from the sex trafficking survivors. They only want to hear from the pro-sex trade people. Christian Eduardo and the equality model. Equality, meaning the people in prostitution, we view them as victims, as oppressed, as vulnerable people. There's a transaction with money. So one person has the higher hand over the other person. We want to, if these people want, if this person should want, the prostituted person, offer them exit strategies, resources, help them, should they want. We also want to help them with having erased any criminal records, because it's very important to understand that many traffickers get their victims, they're involved in crimes, so they can hold that over their heads, whether it's drugs, whether it's robbery. So it's very important that we have clearing of the records. I am on the steering committee with Christian Eduardo, New Yorkers for the Equality Model, and I urge all of you, go to the website, equalitymodelnewyork.org, again, Warriors, equalitymodelnewyork.org, and find out exactly what the equality model means and why we support it. We want to hold accountable those who cause the harm. I mean, don't you agree? Shouldn't they be held accountable? Pimps, traffickers, criminals, sex buyers. The only way we can really get at all of this overwhelming and escalation of is really end the demand. And that's a big one and a tough one, but that's the only way I can see we can make a dent in this, start holding those accountable financially, criminally, and let the word go out. You're not going to get away with this. Now, you have to remember, a lot of this falls on our vulnerable communities, our people of color. It's true. And we have to do something. And we're Christian Eduardo is certainly out there every day, preaching, consulting, everything I'm also doing. And isn't it a shame that our elected officials will not listen to him? They want to hear from the pro-sex trade. And they're not working for us, our elected officials, but that's not news. I mean, you don't need me to sit here and tell you about that. They're working for who knows. We don't know. But I guess the bottom line is money. Follow the money. And it hurts me that somebody like Christian Eduardo has been through so much and can talk about it and is proud. I asked him today, I said, do you like the word survivor? And he said, yes, I do, because it right away tells you who I am and what, I'm working to change. And you think being part of all these different, the trans community, the lesbian, the gay, like they would welcome him and want to hear what he has to say in New York, and they do not. So we're fighting hard every day for you, your children, and your grandchildren. We do not want the full decriminalization of the sex trade here in New York, because believe you me, this will sweep the country. So I don't care where you live, it'll be coming to your community someday soon. So you better know what all of this is about so that you can contact your elected officials. I don't care. Numbers count. They have to answer 10 plus people right to their offices. They keep a log. They have to make some sort of counting of this. Go to house.gov, senate.gov, find out who represents you, put in your zip code, write them one sentence. I do not want the full decriminalization of the sex trade. Think of it though, because many people I'm convinced are very confused over what this really means, full decrim. Think of it as partial decrim, meaning decrim for the prostituted people that we view and studies show are really victims, oppressed people, vulnerable people forced into this. And we have studies, varying studies, most of them are between 80 and 90% that these prostituted people do not want to be in the sex trade. We also have studies where the sex trade is illegal, for instance, in some counties in Nevada. Still, where it's legal, 81% of the women report they have a pimp, they have a trafficker, they are forced to give their earnings, over half of them, to the pimps and traffickers. There's no freedom. So legalizing the sex trade, which is the argument for this full decrim, let the trans people have a career, let the sex worker, be able to freely work without the police breathing down their neck. Well, let me tell you something. Is that all we think of our people? The trans community, let them be sex workers? I keep bringing that up, but that's another one that falls on deaf ears. Or that's all somebody's good for, because I guarantee you no little girl or boy wakes up and says, mommy and daddy, grandma and grandpa, I want to be a sex worker. It doesn't work that way. They don't. More of this society trying to normalize, the sexualization of all. So we want to keep an eye on this one. So again, I commend to you to go to equalitymodelnewyork.org, read up about this, and read up about our pending legislation, the Sex Trade Survivors and Justice Act, where we propose this equality model. You need to get on top of this. Again, it'll be in your community before you know it. Let's get to a couple of points of business. I've had about a week now to dissect the congressional hearings, I guess we'll call them, regarding Facebook and Instagram. Remember that, warriors? We started on September 30th with Antigone Davis, Global Director of Safety at Facebook. Now remember, Facebook and Instagram are the same company. Facebook bought Instagram in 2012. So think of them as one company. Her testimony in front of the Senate congressional hearing, spearheaded by Senators Richard Blumenthal and Marsha Blackburn, resulted in what I am calling Facebook Fizzle. Now let me explain. After several hours of her testifying, Antigone Davis, again, director, global safety, chief safety director, should have some answers. And she was not very forthcoming, and she was not very transparent, and she really didn't have any answers. So the bottom line was, she said many, many times, I'll take it back to my team. This, the global head of safety, there to discuss the recently leaked reports of Facebook knowing how toxic Instagram is, and Facebook, for children, especially girls. So that's Antigone Davis. Next up, all of a sudden, we hear 60 Minutes, CBS's 60 Minutes. Whistleblower will reveal identity. That's when my alarm went off. And I said, when mainstream media gets involved, something is not right here. Sure enough, Frances Haugen, sorry, it's late at night, I'm a little tired, started talking during this interview, whistleblower, Frances. She started talking about, and I just knew this was going to happen. It was supposed to be about our children and safety on Instagram and Facebook and the toxic culture and how are we going to change this? Well, she talked about hate speech and that a friend of hers fell to conspiracies, and that's why she went to work at Facebook to try to correct these things and polarizing division in our country. And then I said, okay, I got where this one's going. Yeah. Okay, fast forward October 5th. Frances whistleblower is now out in the open and appears before Congress. And again, spearheaded by Senators Richard Blumenthal and Marsha Blackburn, among others. And it went into that whole hate speech, blah, 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 blah. I got this one. So I'm calling it a Facebook fizzle because the bottom line is, and you can figure it out, you're smart. I don't have to tell you these things. We know where this is going. And the children and the safety and our young women and the toxic culture was kind of all pushed to the side. And while everybody applauded this whistleblower, I don't applaud her. Because Instagram put out a statement the other day, and you know what they told us, warriors? And I'm quoting, I should read the actual quote. Actually, I will. I'm going to put on my glasses. I don't want to get anything wrong. The actual quote, one of the solutions that Facebook brought up the other day, quote, Instagram will nudge. Instagram will nudge teens away from harmful posts and ask them to take a break. That's it? You're going to nudge teenagers? All of this noise and we get a nudge? So you see, warriors, our children are the product. I tell you this all the time. We are not going to stand for this. We are going to take action. We are going to talk to our children, our grandchildren. We are going to monitor, a word I don't like, but you know what? We got to use it these days, what they're doing online. We have to make the kids our partners so they understand what's happening and get them away from all of this. And the only thing I can see here to make a difference is if we demand Section 230 reform of the Communications Decency Act. Now, right now, Section 230 gives all of these platforms complete immunity from anything. That's kind of the bottom line. They can't be held responsible for any sort of CSAM, child sexual abuse material on their platforms, just nothing. And they're getting away with, well, you know, everything and making money at the same time off the backs of our children and all people. So until we have our government, our elected officials stand up and come up with Section 230, of the that's Communications Decency Act. Reform. We're not going to get anywhere. It's got to be warriors. Take care of our own kids. Facebook Fizzle. That's what I have to say. I'm sorry, my virtual screen, I can see once in a while because I move around a lot when I talk, is kind of popping in and out, but we'll just let that one go for now. I also want to remind everybody that here in New York City on December 4th, we are going to have a very peaceful rally and protest for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And that location, we had to change the location because, believe it or not, they said we couldn't do it within 500 feet of a church. I don't think anybody cared about BLM marching, permits, churches. Anyway, we'll let that one go for now. So the location will be across from the Supreme Court building downtown, Foley Square, Thomas Paine Park. It's several feet from where we were going to do it originally, but whatever. We're peaceful protesters, and we will be bringing together, we will have a lot of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein in town because Ghislaine Maxwell's trial starts a few days earlier. And we're going to rally, we're going to talk, and we're going to invite not only Jeffrey Epstein survivors, but all survivors, and make it a day about survivors. Because I'm telling you, without their lived experiences and voices, I can't do my job. Nobody should talk about human trafficking and sexual exploitation unless we include the survivor in all of this. Again, I want you to all follow the information. Always go to linswarriors.org as I update, and epsteinjustice.org to follow along. And we have my wonderful partners. The National Center on Sexual Exploitation has just joined us, so they're going to be part of all. We have Exodus Cry, which, if you recall, I did a couple of weeks ago in the middle of Times Square. We did our peaceful, we're always peaceful, protest, protect kids, not porn, and they've signed on. So we're really building this in the next few weeks. You're all welcome. We have to stand together. It sounds incredibly, a lot of people say, why bother? I'm not in New York. What does it matter? People are getting away. Well, let me tell you something. That is not a warrior attitude. If you don't step back and every day wake up and just be in it for that day and take action, forget everything. We can never give in and we can never give up, because you know what? All these other criminals and everything else going on, all the discourse, they're not giving in. They're not giving up. They're emboldened and empowered because they want to wear everybody down. The predators want to wear everybody down. Right now, the predators are winning. Don't let your child or grandchild be next. Take action. Even if you go on epsteinjustice.org, contribute $5. You know what? Even if you don't contribute $5, if you just share the link and say the protest is happening. I don't care if you're not in New York. Let people know it's happening. Remember, things snowball, things take off. So I am very much looking forward to this. And warriors, first I'm going to take a sip of my tea out of my Lynn's Warriors mug. I'm feeling a little raspy at the end of the day. Again, I have no shame ever. All merchandise available at cafepress.com, Lynn's Warriors. All proceeds go to survivors of survivors of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. So keep that in mind. Holidays are right around the corner. Time to get ordering. And all day long, when I was in the studio today, the sound is down because I'm working and talking, but it's all surrounded by TV sets. So like the whole studio. And all I could see all day long, supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. Well, you know what? Forget the supply chains. Go to linswarriors.org. T-shirts, pajamas, mugs, jewelry, coasters, blankets, pillows. And you know what? You'll order it. It'll be shipped to your house. You'll be done. It will not be the big evil Amazon. and the proceeds go to survivors of human trafficking. How easy is that? So do it. Okay, warriors, this is urgent, urgent, urgent. You cannot be watching that Netflix offensive programmer and their Squid Game. I warned everybody last week. Their method of operation at the Netflix is to just put all this PR and marketing out there, the biggest thing happening, the most watched show in their history, the greatest global this, the greatest global that, everybody's loving it. Well, let me tell you, this is offensive, this is violent, this is graphic, this is organ harvesting, this murder squads. No child should be watching this. But all of their talk, of course, people, they do it all the time now, are going to tune in and say, what is this Squid Game? Kids are going to say to each other, did you see Squid Game? No. Okay, then they're going to watch it. Parents, I am begging you, watch what the kids are doing online. Put those parental controls on Netflix, pins, whatever you have on your cable, streaming. What? Do not watch this. This is more normalization of disruption and violence, organ harvesting, death squads. No way. And I also want to recommend my good friends at Parents Television and Media Council out in Hollywood. Really one of the only Hollywood organizations I like these days because they do good work. And our good friend Tim Winter, the president of the Parents Television and Media Council, puts out a weekly newsletter. I urge all of you to sign up for it. parentstv.org is the website. And he'll tell you what's happening in the programming landscape for our children, what you need to know, what you need to stay away from, how you can take action. For instance, Squid Game, we're after Netflix because they just keep getting away with this. And nobody seems to be able to hold them accountable. So you know what that means, warriors? I have to give you this information. Tim Winter gives you the information, and you have to take control. And you have to take responsibility and do it yourself. And that is being a warrior. So again, Tim Winter, president of the Parents Television and Media Council, and I have noticed the escalation of the sexualization of our children in programming. And I actually think it's a mix of getting the kids used to being these kind of sexual objects and also getting adults used to looking at kids as sexual objects and mashing it all together. That's what I think. That's my opinion. And we need to stop this. This is just not right, out of control. Again, our children are not the product. So please, parentstv.org, but also please sign up for the newsletter because Tim will do all the work for you. You'll know what to look for, what to not watch, all kinds of stuff. And again, you'll join us and take actions. Remember, numbers count. So we got to do that. I also want to remind everybody that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Remember, 1 in 20 Americans are abused by an intimate partner. 1 in 20. I know, warriors, it's incredible. It's just overwhelming, all of this dark kind of information. Again, we cannot give in, we cannot give up. We have to take matters into our own hand. So you want to know some information about, perhaps for yourself, a family member. First, you can always call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and that number is 1-800-799-SAFE. Again, 1-800-799-7233. And you can just chat, ask questions. I also recommend going to 2 different websites. NCADV, which is the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and that's ncadv.org. Studies, stats, stories, take actions, all kinds of useful information. You can take your time, you can read it, know it, absorb. Remember, knowledge is power. That's what we have to always remember. And also, National Network to End Domestic Violence, that's nnedv.org, nnedv.org. Again, the largest organization based out of Washington. Get the facts, know what you're talking about, know what you're looking for. Help somebody if need be, help yourself. I also wanted to talk about something that is called a trigger warning. I know we hear that a lot, trigger, trigger, trigger. For lack of a better word, I'm going to call it a trigger warning because actually, for a survivor of human trafficking, of sex trafficking, it actually is a trigger warning. I am so tired of looking at this larger than life image of convicted sex trafficker Peter Nygaard hanging right here in New York City at 40th Street and Broadway in front of his now shuttered store. They closed his fashion. He's a former fashion executive. That's how they describe him, activewear. When he was arrested for sex trafficking, and there were rumors for years about him, they closed the store immediately. His larger than life image, I don't know, maybe it's 25, 30 feet tall. I don't know, still hanging. And I'm calling on the Times Square Alliance to remove that. Can you imagine if you were assaulted or sex trafficked by this guy and you see this thing hanging in the middle of Times Square? Get that thing down. So the Times Square Alliance, you can call them 212-768-1560. Let me repeat that, 212-768-1560. And if you're shy, we should be shy about none of this. You can email streetwatch@timessquarenewyorkcity.org. Again, streetwatch@timessquarenewyorkcity.org, because I have had it looking, I have a meeting every week and I walk past there. And I've been trying since he's been arrested to get this thing taken down. What is the problem here? I need all of you to help me with this one. Warriors, there's so many good things too happening, but here's a story it's actually a story about justice. And I don't ever name these criminals because I don't give them any attention. But a man, 29 years old, finally arrested, sentenced to 55 years to be followed by a lifetime of supervised release, whatever, that's what they're calling it. 55 years in prison followed by a lifetime of supervised release for sexual exploitation of a minor and distribution of child pornography. Now, let me tell you, this guy exploited children on social media apps. This is why we need safety filters. This is why we need monitoring tools. This is why, excuse me, we need to talk to our children and teens. Children as young as 6. And this is, no, I'm not blaming parents. This guy he said he was a modeling agent. And he got children to do very suggestive, make videos of themselves and send him these videos. So thank goodness a 6-year-old's parents discovered these sexually explicit videos. Where were the parents when this child was being directed to create these sexually explicit videos and then send them? Why does a 6-year-old have their own phone? Social media apps. I like to call them anti-social media apps, but call me wacky. That's just me. I'm working hard. I don't want to be too premature on calling for all states to offer mandatory K through 12 human trafficking education in our school systems, public and private. Some states already have it, like Florida, Virginia. Some private schools have it as part of their health courses. And we have all this sexual stuff going on. And people do not want our children to have human trafficking education. And go figure this one out. You know, when I was walking this morning, early this morning, I was walking across town here in New York to a meeting. I will say in the 8 o'clock hour. And all the children were going to school. There's a nearby high school, and there's a grammar school, and everybody was hustling and bustling. And it was actually good to see a lot of parents and grandparents bringing little kids to school. And I saw loads of teenagers, you know, jumping off the subway, coming up the steps, running to their high school. But as I looked at these children, I said to myself, 1 in 4, and we know it's higher because these are underreported crimes. 1 in 4 of all of these children and teens will be approached online with sexual images or dialogue from a stranger. 1 in 4. This is how my mind thinks. And 40% will respond to a stranger and start talking to them. So this is where we have to like nip this in the bud. You don't talk to strangers. They are not your friends. I don't care if somebody says they're a peer and they like your blouse. Yeah. First steps of grooming, no way, no strangers, no matter what. And you know what? Something good to tell the kids, because remember, we want to be age appropriate. We have to kind of scare them a little bit. Something I used to not think, but times are desperate. And so we have to be tougher. Excuse me. You have to say to a small child, because they'll understand this. Actually, teens too. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Teens too. Because many teens I talk to who've exchanged images or dialogue have said to me afterwards, I knew it didn't seem right. I knew it didn't feel right. I did it anyway. So we have to change that up to, if it doesn't feel right or seem right, it's probably not right. That's the conversation. Like that's what we have to teach our kids. You know, again, making them our partners. If they have any questions, they need to just come to us and say, I got this image, I got this email, I got this TikTok. Although I'm one of the few people that believes, get away from TikTok, totally. Don't believe things you see on TikTok. Every time I go to my Instagram, I have these videos pop up. I didn't sign up for them. I guess it's part of the algorithms now. Women dancing, kids dancing, TikTok. I'll just say to you, nobody should be on TikTok. Danger zone. You know, every platform, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Messenger are all full of child sexual abuse material, cyberbullying, eating disorders. Got to get the kids away from this stuff. Now, granted, we live in a 24/7 digital world. I understand that. We've got to have perhaps days off from the internet, less time each day on the internet. We've got to start pulling back, because unless they do this Section 230, reform of the Communications Decency Act, things are just spiraling downward. I don't know how much downward they can go. Remember, our elected officials are basically doing nothing. There are good people really trying to do things, but we know with the government, there's red tape, it takes time. And right now with everything going on, This is not what this is not what they're interested in at all. And I think you know that. And you don't need me. You all know human trafficking is bad. You all know sexual exploitation is bad. You don't need me to tell you this, but this is what I do know. This is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people, about helping the survivors, about educating, about more resources for our first responders, our police departments. I am pro law enforcement. We need them as our partners in all of this. And that's what I do. It's education, it's training. Let's find the resources for all of this and go out into the communities. Remember, it has to start in the home and the community, and then it'll spread out from there. Can't wait for these elected officials, because I can't tell you in the last 2 years, I have seen so much come and go with no results. For instance, the Facebook Fizzle, those 2 congressional hearings. What do we get out of that? We got Instagram saying they're going to nudge teenagers to take some timeouts. They're going to nudge teenagers to stay away from, that might be dangerous content. They don't even say that. They're just going to nudge them. What's this nudge stuff? When you have child sexual abuse material on your platform, cut it out. Why is this so difficult? This is criminal. Anything with children, we have laws on the books. Why is this so hard for everybody to understand and take care of? These are our precious children being groomed, being looked at as the product, as the future adults, as they're being sucked in for this lifetime of exploitation right now. They are the web traffic. Up to you, warriors. Take care of it. But the difference with Lynn's Warriors is there's so many people talking about trafficking. Just even today, I actually did a quick scan before I sat down with you, and I guess you could call them, I won't name them, I'll call them faux celebrities. That's what I call. I don't like to say celebrity. I say faux celebrities. And all of a sudden they're talking about, some missing children. Well, you know what, warriors? Right. And after they do their podcast or their show on television, they don't talk about it again. There's never any follow-up. Just goes away. So right now, I always want to offer you, go to my website, lynswarriors.org. And tomorrow I'll be loading a lot of new content onto that. There's only 24 hours in the day. I'm working as fast and as hard as I can. I do it all myself. I'm not complaining. I'll have new content up there tomorrow. I'll have the Christian Eduardo, brave leader, human trafficking survivor interview I did with him. I want you all to hear that. And I want you to sign up for my newsletter. I sent a new one out today. I usually send them on a Tuesday or a Wednesday based on my workload. And you'll find out, email sign up. It's right on the website, because it's chock full of take actions and stories you need to know about, and a little bit of blogging and things I want you to just maybe read and say, or you'll investigate further and learn more. And certainly where to go for the free safety filters, for the free webinars, the free monitoring tools, books you can read, all kinds of stuff. Oh, warriors. Let's see. I'm still rattled about the musical that began last week on October 9th. It's not even a week. Seems like a week. The North American musical tour of Pretty Woman. I don't know if you saw my video I did on that. I did a little video on that. I mean, prostitution is not a musical. This was a Disney movie in 1991. And we kind of didn't bat an eyelash. It was a big hit. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. We know so much more now, 30 years later, about the harms of the sex trade and about the people are oppressed in the sex trade. You think there are women and men just working on their own? No, the pimps, the traffickers, they murder you. That's a myth, the myth of Pretty Woman. Now this is being glamorized in a musical now. It was on Broadway in 2018 and closed. And then we hit the pandemic. And now they announced and started the North American tour. And I urge all of you, I can't really tell you what to do. I would not be supporting this musical. I would not be taking my teenage girls to this, this Cinderella story where the wealthy man saves you and gets you out of this life of prostitution. But the most annoying thing about this whole thing is that playbill, the Bible of the Broadway theater scene here in New York, actually describes this show as sex worker meets disillusioned businessman. Again, sex worker. They want to normalize sex worker, this lingo. It's normal to be a sex worker. It's fine to be a sex worker. Sex is not work. There is no such thing as a sex worker. Again, we should be lifting people, not oppressing already oppressed people. So, warriors, stay away from it. They really have a nerve in this day and age with everything going on to think this is really okay. We can Pretty Woman, the musical. And that if you find a rich savior, he'll bring you to Beverly Hills and buy you a new wardrobe, and you'll become a classy woman and live happily ever after. It doesn't happen. Sorry. Does not happen. Let's see. I also want to mention that I need all of you on this one to every day leverage the internet for good and to go to missingkids.org. That is the National Center on Missing and Exploited Children based in Washington, D.C. And share a picture of a missing child on your Facebook, on your Twitter, wherever you can. There are thousands of children. And let's use the internet for good, because it just takes one pair of eyes to see or say something. And there are kids found this way. Somebody said to me a few weeks ago, I don't understand. We never hear about the kids that are found. You know what? A lot of these children, first of all, a lot of children are not found. And when some are found, it's so traumatizing. We don't want any more attention on the children found. We want to try to treat their traumas, to find them homes if they're not returned to their home. A lot of these teens are runaways from really bad home situations. Could you blame them? Drug addicted parents, abuse, they run away. And what happens? They don't mean to get involved in sex trafficking. Nobody goes out there and says, I'm going to get involved in trafficking. But kids are naive, despite they think they're smart. 12, 13, 14, teens. When you're in the street and you're cold, and after 2 days, somebody approaches you and says, I'm going to buy you a hamburger, 99% of the kids go with them, and there it begins. And then they're trapped. So we've got that scenario. But I urge all of you to please share a picture. It's such an easy thing to do. I pretty much put one every day on Facebook and Twitter. You can just go to Lynn's Warriors and share that, retweet that. Every little bit helps. And we're going to wrap it up with just a little what we have to do in this immediate future. It's only October. Remember, you're the parents, you're the grandparents, you're in control. Talk to your kids. Be smart. Engage, educate, and empower. If you have any questions, you can always write to me, lynn@lynswarriors.org. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I want all of you to always keep in mind that the main goals of Lynn's Warriors, we have education. And again, I'm working on this program, which is a full medical protocol, which will be engaging law enforcement, medical pediatricians, the warriors that we're going to go into hospitals and other residences. I'll fill you in as we move along. We're working very hard on this right now to identify what to look for. If somebody's presented, say, an emergency room, and a girl is brought in, she's usually treated and released. She's usually got a pimp or a trafficker waiting outside the door. There are programs like this in existence, not the Warriors program that we are going to put out shortly. But you know what? That's fine. There's going to be room for our program, the Warriors program. We're going to go to hospitals, the Bronx, Brooklyn, get away from the big hospitals that may already have these programs. But you know what's interesting about these hospitals that have these programs? I was talking to a colleague of mine, a doctor, and she did a little inquiring. And even with some hospitals that have well-known hospitals, programs in place, she would say to somebody, a nurse in the emergency room, so what happens? What do you do if you see a girl, mascara running, or, ripped clothes, or, and almost all of them told her, she did a little, work for, asking, a little focus group, we'll call it. They all said, well, we don't know. I don't know. That doesn't work. We need a full protocol. We need social workers on hand, medical, the law, a place to bring these people and remove them. Remember, my goal at the Warriors is, if I reach one of you a day, then I have done my job. And reaching one of you can be helping somebody. That could be a survivor, a parent, educating somebody. One a day. I wake up and I go to bed and I say, did I do my one person a day? Did I reach one person a day? Now, today I know I reached a lot of people with the radio program. And I urge all of you to tune into that, WVOX.com, across the universe. If you're here in New York, 1460 AM New York, live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I post by the next day always the full show in the interview section. I pretty much have a guest every week because I want to focus. I want to give people a voice. That mainstream media, they're not talking to, for instance, my friend Christian Eduardo today. They should be. No. They're not talking to politicians I might be talking to about, fighting. There's just a couple in New York, this pro-sex trade. No, they're not talking about that. So it's our job to do all of that. And let's end with always, I want to thank you for being so supportive of my work, of being interested in my work, of sending me emails, of sending your donations. Do you know how much that means to me? You have no idea. All of the money raised at the Warriors goes to the survivors to give them economic empowerment. Every penny I can get my hands on, because they just need food, or they need, co-pays, or they need a bill paid, or they need some transportation. And of course, I am not putting anybody, and they're so good, some of these people to say, oh, Metro card, so a Metro card you can get on the bus or subway here. I'm not putting these girls and women on these dangerous New York City subway these days. I'm going to put them in an Uber and spend the money so they're safe. They've been traumatized enough. So I want to thank you for all of your support. It means the world to me. When I was in Times Square a few weeks ago, protesting peacefully with Exodus Cry, a woman walked up to me and said she heard me talking about I'd be there. And she handed me a wrinkled, folded up $5 bill. And she walked away. I said, hey, wait, what's your name? And she said, no, I just want you to have. I heard you saying you'd be here. Here's $5. Do you know how much that $5 means to me? And it was probably a lot for her to give to me. And she just walked off. It means a lot. So warriors, we have work to do. We have work to do every day. You know all of this. Come to Lynn's Warriors for resources, solutions, tips. Sign up for the newsletter. Read stories. Talk to the kids. Reassure them. Let me leave you with this final thought. Reassure them that all is going to be okay. Because everything is in such chaos. Can you imagine what our children and teens, what's going through their brains when all the adults I know are crazed and becoming more crazed? It's our job. Reassure the kids everything's going to be okay, and talk to them. And you always remember, come to Lynn's Warriors, learn more, and today and every day, be a warrior.